Hi guys, welcome to the season 1 finale of Conversations in Music. I'm your host West Byrd, and the team and I thought long and hard about how to close out this wonderful season. My production assistant Essix had the brilliant idea to recap all the interviews from season 1. We hope you guys have enjoyed learning from some of the industry's best and gaining the priceless knowledge they've been so willing to share. Take a second, please leave us a comment. Let us know what you thought about season 1 and how we can improve moving forward to season 2. Without further ado, welcome back to the conversations.
Earlier, you mentioned Herbie, you mentioned Chick, Bill Evans, and all these different people that you listen to. How did you carve out your own voice and your own sound to now what we know as Jeff Lorber's piano playing, keyboard playing?
Well, like I said, like the whole thing was sort of, I didn't really have a plan, but when I look back and I look at what happened, I listened to my first couple albums and I could tell, oh, well, this song was influenced by Chick and this one was influenced by Herbie and this one sounds a little bit like Parliament Funkadelic because of I'm using the string ensemble and some crazy bass sound. And so I think most musicians start out like that, where you're trying to find your voice and you do the best you can. And you whatever you come up with, it's an amalgam of everything you've heard in your whole life. And I was lucky because I always loved music, and I grew up in a musical family. My mom played piano; she was a very good player. I used to hear her play classical music all the time, and I think that was a good time to grow up in terms of what was on the radio, the stuff that was being played on the radio. You know, Philadelphia international music and Motown, and the stuff from the 50s and 60s. I mean, it was an exciting time and the Beatles, of course, and everything that came after that. But I think by the time I got to the Water Sign album, all of a sudden there was more of my own sound. And if you want to sort of identify that sound, to me, the way I would explain it, it's music that is usually, often funky, R&B based, sometimes Latin based, rhythmically. There's definitely bebop vocabulary in there. There's bebop a lot in the soloing. I think melodically, the way the songs are constructed, it tends to be more melodic, more like simpler melodically.
I don't know, I've always been blessed to be a chameleon, but I think it has to do with the glory years that I spent developing the craft of making records. It was a perfect storm of all these elements. Working with the best musicians in the best studios, with the best engineers, with the best artists, with the best producers, doing great songs.
Magic.
So, and that was regular. That was normal.
The norm.
That's what we did. Learning how to make each artist sound like the best of themselves, keeping their identity, integrating our personalities into their identity, was a craft that we developed over hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different sessions with different artists. You go in a session and you're doing a song for Barbra Streisand. Well, you want to incorporate elements from your playing that would work well with what Barbra sounds like. Or Willie Nelson, or Lionel Richie, or Gladys Knight, or Patti LaBelle, or
you name it.
Yeah,
you got to stay true to them, to what they
do. Yeah. Mike McDonald, anybody like that, and even before that, I started with Stevie. So that was a university in and of itself.
Right.
I called being with him Wonder U. I went to Wonder U.
Yeah.
And for 4 years, I learned the characteristics of all different kinds of genres.
Yeah.
You know, I learned what makes reggae sound like reggae. I learned what makes country sound like country. I learned the elements
The formulas.
the formulas, the characteristics.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those sensibilities that go into a particular genre, you know, Latin music, classical music, gospel music, all of it. And when you tap into the characteristics of a genre, you then have an area with parameters that you can create from.
What that creative space that you're talking about to be able to decipher what to play. What did you tap into to get to that place?
It's all in the moment. When I'm in the studio, I try to think spontaneously as if I'm playing live.
Mm-hmm.
Conversely, when I'm playing live, I try to bring the elements of structure
Mm-hmm.
in a studio. I'm always trying to incorporate both worlds.
Well, I apply and tap into everybody. Anybody I hear who has control over their voice, period. I mean, from the moment I listened to Tremaine Hawkins as a child to listening to SZA and her, it's always something you can learn. I think there's a place where each one of us, well, for me, I think each one of us can glean from one another, no matter who you are, from male voices, female voices, whoever it is. Becoming a better me is what I'm after most of the time. I'm trying to figure out, okay, how do you do that and that together? Okay, I can do that, but can I do that? Trying to train my ear to hear the way I would say the new generation has a different kind of run that they do. They don't, there's an old school run and then there's those new school runs. And I have to hear it first and then try it. I can't think of what they're doing. So I'm learning as I go by and listening to people on the radio, and my children play music that I hear and I'm going, who is that? Who is that? What is that? So I'm constantly learning and picking up and gleaning from entertainers. I think it's part of our job to continue to learn and grow and stretch. That's what keeps it interesting to me.
Yeah. This platform is not only for me, but I really want people to hear these stories and see the steady grind of a career progressing, and how you think that it just went and he just went to this audition and smashed the audition and then he got you. It don't happen like that all the time.
No.
It is really strategically put together and orchestrated without you.
Right. And going to an audition and smashing it like that is no guarantee that you're going to have a 30, 40-year career.
Exactly.
That's like one gig.
Yeah.
If you get that gig, you know what I mean? So the challenge for young players is, I always say it to them, let me see you develop a career. Let me see you have a career. You know, that's where it's at.
And it does this. That's what they don't understand. It does this.
Flows. Yeah. It's not going to, you're not going to always be hot. You're not going to always be the hottest cat in town, you know, but as long as you just keep persevering and keep honing your craft. See, a lot of times we think we're at a certain point and we're really not there yet, playing wise. We think we're there, but you're not there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's always, I mean, there's always room for growth. Always. I don't care how great you become, you know, or how much you think you've mastered something, there's always room for more growth.
When I finally got to work with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, I was kind of spoiled.
Okay.
Because everybody had, like, so, you know, the process was like, they send songs, you pick the song. If you like it, you go record it. If not, you pass over it.
Yeah.
And, or like with the Underdogs, they made everything so simple, like, because they had so many people coming in the lab, like, they made everything so seamless. But with like older producers like Jam and Lewis, it was like, it's a vibe.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like David Foster, it's a vibe.
Yeah.
Like in the beginning of my career, I would just be sitting there like, oh my God, like this takes so long. But that is the beauty of writing songs.
Yeah. The
And
process.
and Uncle Terry, Terry pulled me to the side and he was like, hey man, if you don't start to love the process, you ain't gonna be around for a long time.
Yeah.
And I kind of
Yeah.
looked at him like, he was like, yeah, man, you gotta love the process.
So if you think back to when you started, think about how many people started and they had one hit wonders and they went way up and then they dropped really fast. So what's the formula or what's the secret to building a career over time?
I'm gonna tell you a secret. Really, it's never fails. There is no secret.
Ah, okay.
There is no secret. Think about it. Everybody you know who has had a career has come up differently. The only
Hmm.
thing that isn't different is hard work. Somebody worked
Ah,
hard over there. Somebody worked hard over there. Somebody grew up in a family with talent. Somebody grew up in a family without any. Somebody grew up with money. Somebody grew up without it. Somebody's name, their father knew their name. Somebody did. Nobody knew who you were at all. Somebody popped up out of nowhere. Hard work, and it's what. And I believe we're supposed to do what we are called to do.
You have to begin to look at your career, look at the arc of your career, especially at the point where I am now with my career, and I look at the arc of it. And everybody's career has an arc. You
hmm.
have a peak
Right.
and a decline of on some level. Some people's is a sharp decline, and some people's it's a gradual decline.
Right.
And I like to think that mine is on that gradual, trend that it's plateauing, and I've just been so incredibly blessed and for the opportunities, man, that have just kind of come my way. A lot of them I wasn't even seeking out. A
Hmm.
lot of them have just been being in the right place at the right time, and God just dropping these things in my lap. And
Yeah.
so I just want to give praise to Him for taking care of me and my family and giving me a career in this business, because a lot of people don't have that,
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
any with any longevity in some cases. And so it's just a real blessing to be able to have that, and
Hmm.
I'm humbled by it.
Hmm.
I don't take it for granted for a second, and I look forward to helping people, my fellow musicians and my community and all of those things, man. Just the opportunity to be able to do that is mind-boggling to me at this point
Hmm.
in my life, to still be able to do it. So I'm humbled,
Yeah.
man.
You brought up your wife and
Mhm.
family. When you're on the road like that, uh, and obviously you say you was coming back and forth, but how do you create a balance, man? Some type of balance that makes sense for family. You get kids, and then all this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, we always made a point. It was easier before we had kids because she could just come out.
Hmm.
She could take the weekend off and meet me in wherever the tour was. She could just come out.
Right.
Uh, Once we had kids, we had to think about it a little more in depth. So, well, we just decided that we would not go past 2-3 weeks without seeing each other or not family
Yeah.
being together. So, if I'm on the road for 2-3 weeks, we've already got a trip planned
Somewhere down there. Yeah.
to either come out, or maybe I was coming through Atlanta or somewhere close, Charlotte,
Hmm.
where we just, try to keep that balance, because the good thing about Cherise is that she understands uh, what I do, because that's all she's ever known.
Right. Right.
I
Right.
was working a corporate gig and then decided to be a musician.
Yeah. Right.
She knew me. I was doing this already. Matter of fact, that's how we met.
Nice.
So it took some adjusting though, because if I'm always on the road and always gone, obviously, a lot of other things could happen if
Hmm.
you're grounded and being true to yourself. So
Yeah.
I'm being true to them. So I always made it a point to be that person. So yeah, we just
Yeah.
try to see each other every 2 or 3 weeks, never any longer than that, regardless of
Yeah.
what it costs.
Right. It was very intentional. So I
Yeah.
What I take from it is you're saying you got to be intentional about it. If you want to do it, you got to commit to it and be intentional about it.
Exactly.
And don't let the circumstances or the obstacles get in the way of that. It's just something that you know this is a priority and this is
Right.
what I got to do.
Yep.
That's good stuff.
You know, we're gonna spend a certain amount of money on just being a family.
Right.
Even though I'm gone a year, you know,
Yeah.
so you got to do it, you know, otherwise it's not gonna work. You know.
First thing I've learned, and it took a while for me to learn it, all time is quality time if you're paying attention.
Okay.
Sometimes people are like, oh, we're gonna go to Disneyland and we're gonna go and I'm gonna buy you this and that. That's not what your children are gonna remember. They'll remember you holding them. They'll remember you kissing their face. They'll remember maybe a gift you bring back, but the fact that you came back is what they're really, really gonna hold on to.
Yeah.
My children traveled with me, gosh, until they had to go to school. And then after that, it was summers, that they would go out with me. But don't have children until you're ready to give them most of your time.
Great advice. Great advice.
Until you're willing to put them first, because they deserve to be first. And if you put forth your best effort, I believe your children know that. I used to live in a state of guilt because when I was home, I felt like I needed to be going and putting a roof over my children's head. I made sure it was my responsibility to make sure that I kept a roof over my children's head.
Yeah.
And so with that said, when I was home, I felt like I should be out putting a roof over their head. When I was out, I felt like I need to be home hanging with my kids because they need
It's
me.
such a conflict, such a push and pull. Yeah. I know
So
what you
hard.
mean. I know.
And I thought they wouldn't understand. And for a while they didn't. For a while they didn't. They were like, well, you were gone too much and we had a nanny and we didn't get this and we didn't have that and you weren't there. But now they understand as they've gotten older. They understand the responsibilities of being an adult and not thinking only selfishly as a child of what they did and didn't get. They got more love. They got all the love I could possibly find in my soul to give them. And that love really does cover the multitude of sins. It really does cover the times I wasn't home. It really does make a difference what you do with your time once you do have time. You can't be on the road all day, every day, every year, of every day of every year. There are times when you're going to be home. So what do you do when you're home?
Yeah.
That is the key. Make it count, mom and dad. Make it count. Make it count. And it counts with your hugs, your kisses, your arms, your words of affirmation. Find out what your children's love language is.
I think the biggest sacrifices are those that are made by your family members.
Oh, okay.
I mean, because like you can't have a quiet meal with your mom anymore. You know what I mean? Without, and I think they're all used to it now, but in the beginning, it used to be, kind of tough, to like have family time, like, take your grandmama to lunch or something like that without
a
having
crowd.
right, because it's like at this point, like the people are who gave you your job.
Yeah.
So like, I would go out to lunch dinner with my mom. I have to like walk away and leave her at the table to take pictures for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
It's just it. So you people don't understand, like when you get to a certain point, your family also has to sacrifice with you because they don't get to spend that kind of, unless you're at home, like going out
in private. Yeah.
Knowing the business is important, and the business has changed so much. So you kind of have to stay fluid because I don't even know what the business is anymore. It's not what it used to be. But I would say just keeping people around you that you can trust, honing your craft and keeping yourself in a place where you can, no matter what happens, if all the power turns off, you can sing. If you're a singer, sing.
You can
Be
go.
able to sing with or without whatever else, whoever else, without the pianist, without the guitarist, without the anybodyist. Can you stand flat-footed and sing your song? To me, nobody can take that from me. I can stand and sing Chanté's Got a Man right this minute if I have to. And that is where you have to take the ownership of the performance and the ownership of what is it within your power. And it's not about masses. It's about you being able to do you no matter what the circumstance.
Losing money will
Yeah.
will show you will make you figure out how to keep money.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, like I had somebody that I thought was the right person,
Yeah.
and they're not.
Yeah.
So losing money helped me find the right people.
What do you think can be done, man, to bridge that gap for people?
I
Not just people on that level, but even entry level artists who's trying to come up and trying to figure out what do I do business wise. They can't make that connection and bring that bridge together.
I think that it's just, at the end of the day, like I think more people need to have discussions with their kids about how they run their
It
finances.
starts really, really young. I
Yeah,
agree.
I had those conversations with my parents. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
They just work and pay bills. Like I didn't know what that entailed. You know what I mean? So I think that that's the starting point. But also, when you want to get in this business, read all the books you can about the music business. Don't just like be inundated with the craft of singing or playing. Like get as much information as you can about the music business because it's
Yeah.
business first.
What kind of money management, man, and investing do you do when you got that kind of money rolling there? Most young people, you know, you're in your 20s, whatever, you ain't never seen that kind of money. You know what I
Right.
mean? So
Right.
like what kind of money management advice would you give, and investment advice would you give when you're seeing that kind of money night in and night out for months or weeks or even a couple of years at a time?
Yeah. Well, I think first of all, you're going to pay some taxes on that anyway. So, and you're taxed at a high rate because of the salary that you're making. It's almost like 40%
Yeah.
tax rate because
Hmm.
of because of the money that you're making. They think you're making that for the rest of your
Right.
life, but you're
Right.
not. So, I mean, of course, you get some of that back. But what I did was we invested in real estate at a at a young age, for the most part.
Hmm. Hmm.
And you're talking, 20 years ago. So we, over the course of time, pretty much every tour, every year, we bought another property. So
Hmm.
that's what I think. I think I had invested in the stock market some, but um, to me, I thought real estate was going to be the answer.
Yeah.
For I think now the stock market is probably the answer. But
Yeah. Did you have advice from anybody during that time? Or is just something that you just like, I want to, did you seek advice and counsel with what to do? Or did they provide you guys with
no,
somebody to say,
I had a few friends that had done really well in real estate, so that's kind of why I
okay,
got into it. I do wish I had gotten some more advice on the stock market because I think that's a winner too if you can afford to stay in it for a while. It's not a if you some guys like to day trade. That's not what I'm looking for something 10 years from now. Where is
right,
it going to be? And
right.
that's kind of what I did with real estate too. I know that I can put this little money over here,
Hmm.
rent it out. I know
Hmm.
10, 15 years down the line, I'm going to be able to cash in, which is what we're doing now for the most part.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
So you saw those and you're seeing those investments from 15, 20 years ago pay off right now,
Yes.
20 years later. So it's the long game.
Yes.
That determination that you have and something you said earlier to finish stuff and
Yeah.
to actually have a drive to succeed at other stuff and whatever you put your mind to. Are there any books that you've read or mentors that you saw from afar up close that kind of, you grabbed on to and it's like, okay, this is a concept that
Hmm.
that I apply to my everyday life. Now it has nothing to do with music, but I applied the music too. You know what I mean? Or
Hmm.
are there any mentors or books out there that you've read?
Oh wow, books that I read. The one book about there are a couple. I read Quincy Jones's biography, Barry Gordy's biography. I'm a huge fan of studying the lives of people.
Yeah.
Miles Davis's biography. You know,
Hmm.
I read Coltrane's biography, Louis Armstrong's biography. I read biographies of tons of different musicians,
Hmm.
and I tell you, man, that has really, really impacted me as an individual. It's impacted my thinking,
Hmm.
um, and it's so inspiring to me to read about these people who have done these incredible things in their careers, and it just makes me want to get out there and try to emulate, and try to find my own path. And I promise you, when you talk about things that I've read, it's those biographies that have really
Hmm.
inspired me more
Yes.
than anything,
Hmm.
and put the profanity aside. Miles Davis's
Yeah.
autobiography is the
That's one of
one.
my favorites. That's the one. That's the one that did it for me.
Yeah, I read
Yeah.
that thing, at least 5 or 6 times all the way through.
Yeah.
It's just his career, his determination to always be different and to always go for what he wanted to do in spite of what anybody else said. He was always like, this is the kind of music I want to make. This is how I want to express myself.
Hmm.
And I kind of picked up that attitude and run with it. Not to say I'm in the same camp with Miles
No.
Davis.
No.
I saying that,
I know exactly what you mean. I know
you
exactly
know,
what you mean. Yeah.
but it's just the life that he led. It was so inspiring to me
Yeah.
on so many levels, and it pushed me to want to emulate him in
Hmm.
in so many positive ways. And
Yeah.
so when I talk about things that I've read, his book would be number one.
So even after high school, you continue your education with Georgia State, correct?
Yeah. Hmm. Hmm.
I've heard you credit your one of your music professors there. I don't know his name. What's his name that you always
Jack
credit
Bell.
there? Jack
Jack
Bell.
Bell.
Tell us a little bit about him because you always mention him as somebody that like catapulted you and opened your mind up to a different style of drumming and stuff.
Yeah. He was a quiet tyrant.
Hmm.
You felt, because he had such command of the craft, you can't allow yourself to be around him and not be stepping to the plate. You know what I mean? So
Oh
it was
yeah,
like I felt like I was being constantly challenged, constantly challenged,
yeah.
constantly. A lot of times I fell on my face. He
Hmm.
exposed my weaknesses.
They did, but it
He
strengthened them though.
exactly. He exposed
Yeah,
my weaknesses then, and then, and that's what I try to do now. Even as a player now for myself, try to kind of purposely let's find something that's hard to play,
yeah,
something that's
yeah,
challenging, and let's see if we can get it under our belt. Let's just see. Let's challenge
yeah,
ourselves. See how
yeah,
how steep the hill really is.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? So he pushed me, man, and he taught me the real essence of being a professional, as far as like the quality of your gear, the sound of your gear. All of that is an extension of you, who you are. So if you just half representing on your gear when you show up, or you show up with half of what you need,
hmm,
that's not being professional.
right,
Being
right.
professional is showing up with more than what you need.
That's
So I
what's
mean,
up.
yeah, to get it from all angles real early is the best thing, I think, for kids. Parents often ask me, how soon is too soon to start? If your child is showing an interest in it, get it
Yeah,
started.
get it going. Yeah,
You
and
know what I
that's
mean?
in
You don't
anything.
have to. Yeah, exactly. You don't have
Yeah,
to be that over the top, overbearing parent, but you can get it
yeah,
started. You can feed it. You know.
yeah, yeah. I always say that expose. I try to expose my kids to as much as possible, just to
Hmm.
see what they latch on to.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly. And
You know,
that's what every individual needs. The world
right?
would be a much better place if everybody could just simply find their passion
Yeah,
and dwell in their passion. You know what I
yeah,
mean? That's why I'm such a big proponent of education, man. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
Educate, learn. Let's
yeah,
teach these kids, inform them, give them some
yeah.
options.
Really, this is why like I started my foundation
Hmm.
to kind of walk kids through that process, because kids that are musical have absolutely no idea what the next level looks like.
Yeah, yeah,
Because you go to school thinking, oh, I'm about to be a music major.
yeah.
Great. But if you went to a high school that didn't really focus on teaching you musicianship, you're going to be behind everybody.
Yeah.
And, you know, like I thank God for my middle school and high school music teachers because I knew how to read music. But if I didn't,
Yeah.
I would have been light years behind everybody else.
Doing what you love, if you keep doing what you love, and if you do it and you compare yourself in some kind, or pace yourself or something in a line, and I would say lightly to compare yourself, but if you have someone that you do admire, and you think they do it well, I think, you know, running alongside them is a good idea.
Look, the most valuable tool that I have right now is God and my knowledge of yoga and mental fitness and emotional fitness, because that is the staple of what's going to ground anybody through any kind of crisis like this. The spiritual piece to that, I mean, is the main piece to that right now for me, man, because this was unprecedented.
Oh yeah.
And it wasn't like just the United States and Canada shut down and the rest of the world was rocking. No, the whole world shut down.
Yep. Stand still.
Everything. Yep. I mean, you know, and that in and of itself says to me that that's God. He's, I mean, you know what I mean? So, you know, I just place my faith in that, in him, and the fact that I know that this is just for a season. You know what I mean? We're going to come out of this. And then I set myself up too with the mindset of, I don't want to come out of this crisis or pandemic being stronger, being a better player, being stronger, a better person, just better all around.
Yeah.
A different Sonny Emory at the end of the pandemic than I was at the beginning.
And really understand the fact that God really is with you, even especially when it seems like he's not. And that every good thing comes from him. And the bad things he's completely aware of, and it's for your growth, which is why it's called growing pains, because it hurts. Which is why the Bible also says, you know, count it all joy when you go through various trials, because it builds your faith, and your faith builds your patience. Yeah.
Yeah, makes you stronger.
And makes you stronger. And, you know, if it doesn't kill you, it's going to make you stronger.
Yeah. And that stronger is here too.
It's totally there.
Yeah,
it's
here.
totally there. It's totally there. It's totally there. And that's never more true than for what we're going through right now.
Because of being a believer, you know, my take on it is a little different than most, but I believe that we're called to be a light. If we are light, we are called to be that light. And it doesn't mean that when you do something that is not a Christian way or whatever, that your life is over, that your career is over, that God will never use you. He uses everything. That is what I've learned to this moment, is that everything is fuel for this fire. And you know, I've learned more recently because of this quarantine, my purpose even more clearly, you know, that this is a time to hone your craft, and it's time to realize who you really are.
What conversation would you have with your younger self about life and everything that you've learned, man?
I would tell my younger self to not take experiences for granted. And I would also tell my younger self to really enjoy the moments. I know people say that all the time, but now, like, the older that I am, I like to sit in moments.
Yeah, be present.
Be present, you know what I mean? Because if you're not present, like, you'll miss it. And I know that now because, I mean, I lost my brother 2 years ago, and like all the moments that I took for granted with him, when I wasn't present, I was just like doing stuff.
Yeah.
And so, you know, for me, like, that's the biggest thing I could tell young people is just to be present, man. Like, when you making music and you in the room with a producer, like, really, you know, enjoy the time, talk to the guy, like, you know, learn who you're working with, learn, like, you know, like, don't, and, you know, interact, like especially like singers, like if they make it to the next level, like make sure you going around the theaters and like introducing yourself to the people that's working, like the lighting people, the janitors.
Mm-hmm.
Like don't be like so big where you can't introduce yourself to somebody that's working. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For you to
Making it
look good.
happen. Yeah.
You know, I'm sure there would be things that I would change if I could, but in general, whatever happened turned out okay, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can tell you one thing that I sort of regret a little bit, which was when I was on Arista Records. At some point, Clive Davis, who was running the record company, he wanted me to add vocals to my music and go in a more R&B direction.
Mm.
And I was just young and I didn't know any better, really. I mean, and plus he's like, if you work with Clive Davis, you definitely don't want to go against him because he's the boss and you know, if you don't do what he says, it's not going to be a good thing. If I didn't
Mm.
do that and I
Yeah.
had been like more on the same trajectory as Pat Metheny was on and stuck with the jazz fusion music,
Yeah.
that might have been that might have worked out okay too.
Wow.
Because the thing is, when Clive Davis tells you to do something like that, he doesn't have to live your life. You know,
Yeah.
you have to live with that decision.
Mm-hmm.
And so you got to be real careful about the decisions you make. So I guess if I was going to say something to the young aspiring musicians out there about what it would be like to talk to your younger self, just when you make those decisions, like really think them through and think about the ramifications of what you're doing and where it's going and what might happen.
Wow. Boy, I have never had that question. That is a great question.
Okay, good.
Probably the best question I've ever gotten in an interview.
Look at
I
me.
would, yeah, that's really making me think because kind of what we just talked about, you know, in wanting to be, what kind of artist do you want to be? I would have asked myself that question at 25, you know, more specifically, not just the guy that plays guitar. What kind of artist do you want to be? And be more intentional about how to approach it, how to monetize it, how to capitalize on it. Because when I started out, all I wanted to do was just make records and play.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wasn't really thinking as much about the business as I do now.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, I would tell my younger self to be more conscious of what you do, be more intentional about what you do as a business person in the music business. And I think that a lot of the things that I probably would like to have seen myself do differently in terms of making a living in this business, I would try to have directed my younger self towards those things if I could have a conversation with 25-year-old Eric Essix.
Practice more
Okay.
and slow down.
In
Slow
life.
down. Period. Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Don't be so quick to or rush to anything.
Nowhere.
Yeah. Be in
Yeah.
the moment and practice. Be ready for the tomorrow.
Mm.
Because tomorrow's coming. Whether you're ready or not, it's coming. I would definitely slow down, live more in the moment, that more than anything else to me. And don't live with regret. Regret does
Mm.
zero. Zero.
Okay.
You can't change anything that happened, period. Whether it was good, bad, ugly, horrible, no matter what it was, you cannot change yesterday. So live the best today for your best tomorrow. That's all you got.
I would say make sure that above all else you stay connected to God and spirit, and that you make a conscious effort to do that, because that is really what gets you over those humps when you're either confused, in despair, hurting, struggling, any of that, dealing with any negative energy, anything, all those forces that seek to pull you down, it's only that spirituality that's going to pull you through that, and the love of what you do. So be patient and hang in there, because if you keep that in line, the obstacle is going to fall. You'll get around them.
Give me the short of it. Give me the short. I know we got this, but this is called Conversations in Music, so I need to know that conversation with your younger self.
I love that question. You are really good. I like this. I would first of all say, bro, live before you tie yourself down in a marriage, particularly a marriage with a package deal. And by live more, I mean, give yourself more time to live, because the first time I got married, I was 23. I had no business getting married that young at all. So I would say to my younger self, look, just because a girl is your best friend doesn't mean you have to marry her. But at the same time, it is crucial that the one you do marry should be your best friend. But don't do this to 23. Don't do this to 23. Don't even think about it until 35, really.
Okay.
Don't even think about it until 35. Just don't even, it's not even in your mind until 35. And then you can start to think about it. Be more astute in business.
That's
learn how to invest.
Okay.
Don't be afraid of investing.
Okay.
Develop alternate streams of income, so you're not depending on one source. Just how successful people of all colors do it.
Right.
Knowledge is learned, wisdom is gained.
Knowledge is learned, wisdom is gained. Break that down a little bit. Give me a little bit there. Just a smidgen.
Well, you can learn math.
Okay.
But how to apply mathematical concepts in investing money, well, that's wisdom.
Makes perfect sense. Gotcha. Yeah.
And even the Bible says, seek wisdom like a precious jewel, like gold.
I don't know if I would. I mean, all that history has kind of made me who I am. I don't know what I would change. Back then, I might have been. I think once I started working, I probably would have invested a little differently, like I mentioned earlier. But as far as just being who I am and going after what I love to do, I don't think I would change anything about that. I mean, I think it's all part of who I am, and it's kind of made me who I am. Actually, all these experiences and the failures, the good times, it's all one body of work.